After spending many days with the Yellow Emperor's inner classic, I realized something strange. I'm still stuck on the first few pages. That probably sounds a little funny, because when I first opened this book, I thought the process would be simple. Read, understand, take notes, move on to the next chapter. But that's not what happened. Some days, I only read a few pages. Some passages I found myself reading over and over again. Not because the language was especially difficult, but because the longer I stayed with it, the more I felt that the real challenge wasn't only in the book. It was in the person reading it. At first, I thought the Yellow Emperor's inner classic was a book about health, about longevity, about taking care of life, about living in harmony with nature. And to be fair, it is. Right in the opening chapter, the Yellow Emperor asks a famous question. Why were people in ancient times able to live beyond 100 years and remain strong? And why do people today often begin to decline around the age of 50? When I first read that question, my reaction was immediate. I wanted answers. What should we eat? How should we sleep? How should we exercise? How should we live? How do we become healthier? But before I could get to any of those answers, something unexpected stopped me. It wasn't the main text. It was the preface in the John Nguyen edition I was reading. There, I encountered a topic I never expected to find so early in an ancient medical classic: the danger of believing too quickly. When people hear the word superstition, they usually think of fortune-telling, rituals, mysticism, things that seem irrational. That was my first reaction too. But as I kept reading, I realized the discussion was much broader than that. There is one kind of blind belief that is easy to recognize. Believing because we're afraid. Believing because we're desperate. Believing because we want certainty. Believing because we want an answer right now. But there may be another kind that's much harder to see. Only believing what is familiar. Only accepting what already fits our existing worldview. Only trusting what makes us feel comfortable. And rejecting something new. Not because it's necessarily wrong, but because it doesn't resemble what we already know. That was the moment I started feeling uncomfortable, because I realized I might have done the same thing many times in my own life. Not with spirits, not with the supernatural, but with assumptions. I once believed that if I simply worked harder, everything would eventually work out. I once believed that going to the gym would solve my health problems. I once believed that running would solve my weight problem. I once believed that reading a book automatically meant understanding it. And now, maybe I was believing that if I just read faster, I would somehow understand the Yellow Emperor's inner classic. But the more I read, the more I realized it wasn't that simple. Whenever I encounter a new idea, my first reaction is often, is it right or wrong? Should I believe it? Should I reject it? When I pick up a new book, I do the same thing. Is this worth reading? Is this idea correct? Does this fit my worldview? But maybe many times, I haven't looked long enough before making a judgment. I only look for a moment. Then I use what I already know to give it a name. And somehow, I mistake that naming for understanding. That's when a sentence appeared in my mind. Observe first, conclude later. It's not a quote from the inner classic. It's simply something I took away from reading that preface. And the more I reflected on it, the more I realized it applies far beyond books. It applies to life itself. When we hear someone express a view different from our own, when we encounter a different way of living, when we come across an unfamiliar tradition, when we look at an ancient text through modern eyes, or when we examine modern life through a very old question. Maybe this is also part of the problem of our age. Everything moves fast. Fast news, short videos, instant opinions, instant reactions. Even answers are expected immediately. If something can't be explained in a few seconds, we move on. If an idea doesn't fit what we already believe, we dismiss it. If a question makes us uncomfortable, we label it superstitious, unscientific, outdated, or on the other side, modern, progressive, correct. But maybe labeling something too quickly is also a way of avoiding the deeper work of actually looking at it. And that's why I'm still stuck on the first pages of The Yellow Emperor's inner classic. Not because I've understood everything, but because I've started to see that the way I read is part of the question. I thought I was reading a book to gain knowledge, but the longer I stayed with it, the more it felt like a mirror. It doesn't just ask what I know about health. It asks what I know about myself. How do I believe? How do I doubt? How do I decide what is true? Am I learning in order to discover something new? Or am I learning in order to confirm what I already wanted to believe? Maybe that's why I can no longer treat The Yellow Emperor's inner classic as a book of quick answers. At least, not for me. If I only read it for health tips, advice about food and sleep, or a few ancient quotes that sound profound, I might miss something more important. The way this book forces me to slow down, to observe more carefully, and to stay with what I don't yet understand. I still don't fully understand those first pages, and I certainly can't say that I understand the true heart of the book. But I know something has changed. I no longer want to read it like someone rushing through a text just to take information from it. I want to read it like someone learning how to see again, learning how to ask better questions, and learning how to decide more slowly. If there's one thing I want to keep from this experience, it's this. Don't believe too quickly. Don't reject too quickly. Observe and let time answer. I still don't know where the next pages will lead me, but one thing is certain. I'm no longer in a hurry. And maybe that was the moment my journey with The Yellow Emperor's inner classic truly began.